completely unbiased reviews and unboxing of some products here at the Unofficial Use Only Garage. So today we've got something a little special. We're actually working on a vehicle in the shop that had death wobble. Just like Dr. Death Wobble says, you have to fix the problem at the root. You have to find out what it is before you repair it. So this particular vehicle, we went through all the standard tests to find out all of the bad issues on the vehicle that are typically prone to death wobble. Death wobble is a harmonic imbalance, so we started tracking each individual thing down and found out what the root of the cause was. Now this particular vehicle, because they just drove all the way across the country with death wobble, and the owner of the vehicle really put it through its paces, he caused more damage. So we don't know what the original root cause was, but we found multiple things that were bad, so we're gonna upgrade everything. Now this vehicle is bone stock. It's a Sahara, and it's 100% bone stock. No lifted, no big tires, no lift, no fancy anything, no light bars, nothing. So it's not just because you lift a vehicle that causes death wobble, it's actually an inherent issue in the style of suspension and a solid front axle. So you have an engine rotating one way, you have drive shafts rotating another, you have gears rotating a third, and tires rotating another. And if they're not all happy, it's like putting two tuning forks in water. It'll really mess things up. So on this vehicle, the track bar was actually in fine shape, but because it was abused so much in that drive, we're gonna change it anyway, just so that they don't have any more problems down the road. We also found the drag link was shot at both ends, at the knuckle and at the pitman arm, as well as the tie rod. Both ends of that were shot. This front drive shaft was also ruined because of the violent vibration caused by death wobble. It eventually wore out the slip joint inside the drive shaft. So with all those things combined, we're changing ball joints, track bar, drag link, tie rod. I think that's just about it. But in the market today, and what we found, again, at Unofficial Use Only, just like I've said in other videos, we like to use some of the best products out there. So this particular unboxing video is going to be Yeti STEERSMARTS. So STEERSMARTS product, their Yeti line of tie rods, drag link, steering, and all the different components that come to it. And because this vehicle needed everything, we get to show you everything. So we'll start off with something simple, the smallest box of the group. So this is the Yeti XD steering dampener bracket. So this is a bracket that goes to their tie rod to allow you to still mount a steering stabilizer, which the steering stabilizer on the vehicle is actually perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with the factory steering stabilizer. It's going to do its job, it's still doing its job. So we don't need to change that, like some people will say, because we found the other problems. So this particular box is a little bit more fun. Oh, they stapled it. So we don't just get to cut tape, and we have to try not to damage our nice knife. So we have hardware, we have instructions, stickers, and a very, very simple instruction card. Here's the product. They definitely do not want this to come apart. So packaging, I'll give them some high marks. It was very difficult to open, which means it was very difficult for the parts to get damaged. So it's a very simple bracket. Hardware, all the parts included. Now we'll grab the tie rod and show you what it looks like and the packaging and where this goes on it. So grab the tie rod. So right off the get, definitely a pretty heavy box. So we'll open it up. So I always check it out down the seam of these boxes so I don't end up hitting a staple with my knife. Instructions and stickers. So the quality of this packaging is pretty evident if you look inside of here. They've used an obnoxious amount of cardboard. I threw out 4 pieces of cardboard, which are, in my best guess, protecting these from bouncing around and shifting and scratching on each other and other things. Because this is really heavy. So cardboard was the good choice. They didn't just stuff it with paper. So as we pull some more of this out, now again, I've removed probably 80% of the cardboard that was inside of the box to reveal the parts. Now these are the tie rod end links, and this is the tie rod itself. And they also provide these cute little caps and O-rings that say Yeti and have a cool little sticker on them. So this is a serious piece of metal. That is an absolutely obnoxiously sized or an oversized tie rod. They have their name stamped right into it. I know that these are forged pieces. That's another cool part about STEERSMARTS that I've learned. Everything that they do is made in the US. STEERSMARTS has its own forge in the Ohio area just below Michigan. So they actually forge all their own parts at their own forge, which is pretty cool, very high end in this world of aftermarket parts. They do it in the US and they do it with really high end products and steel. So it's got a protector, rubber boot, Zerk fitting. This is where the cap would go that says Yeti. So really nice. Another really cool thing that I learned, so I built the SEMA wheel stand for STEERSMARTS last year, which got more reviews than the Jeep that was parked on it, which was really cool, and I was really proud of that. But I actually used all STEERSMARTS parts when I did that, and that's how I really got intimate with this product and why I started to love it so much. So the tie rod itself, which is a pretty big bar, and it's pretty heavy. I mean, you could actually use this to work out. So it is 3/16 wall chromoly tube, and it's really heavy duty. So when you compare, when you add this to the tie rod ends, you get a really, really phenomenal product. Once it's on the vehicle, once everything's set up and you've got it where you want it, this, which was the steering dampener clamp, is designed to clamp right to their bar in any position, depending on your steering stabilizer. And another nice thing I like, when you look at these, you know, they clamp together with 6 bolts. So the clamping force that's generated when you torque these properly is phenomenal. It's not going anywhere, which is really, really nice. They also provide the standard bolt that's threaded to go in there to hold your steering stabilizer in place. So really nice. And on the opposite end of it, you'll see there's a small thread, and this is for the factory steering stabilizer. And then the much larger one, that'll actually fit a hydraulic ram. So some of us who use redneck ram or PSC steering, this clamp will work with this tie rod for hydraulic steering. No welding required. Get the clamp set, get it where you want it, and you're good to go. So those are 2 parts. That's the tie rod and the clamp. I'm putting everything, oh wait, I forgot to talk about this. So stickers, and again, the STEERSMARTS torque specs and instructions. Very simple. It appears that all the parts come with the same one, because this was with the drag link and this is with the tie rod. One of the really nice things, and something that I want to really highlight on this, is they give, and I'll hold this one while I read this one, the tie rod assembly, driver side torque spec, passenger side torque spec, clamp torque spec. So basically every single part of their steering, they give you the actual torque spec. Use a torque wrench. Don't use an impact wrench when you put these together. Because if you use an impact, and I wish I had a cutaway, but if you use an impact when you're putting these together, you get this, you shove it up into the knuckle, you put the nut on it. I've seen guys, what they'll do is they'll put a pry bar under this, load it, and they'll just use an impact to run it home. And it's wrong. Don't do that. There's a torque spec for a reason. If you look at these, they have an Allen head in the top, and that's so that you can hold it still while you tighten the nut. Now, to bring it to the appropriate torque, which these instructions tell me that for this drag link, knuckle end, or tie rod, there's a tie rod, driver side, passenger side. So they're telling me that this gets torqued to 63 to 67 foot-pounds of torque. Not an impact. An impact, it does a couple different things. One, as it tightens, when it's hitting with the impact force, people will say, oh, it's 6 ooga-oogas. It's wrong. When an impact does that to a tie rod and a ball joint is a steel ball in a steel cup. And sometimes, whether it's on factory components or even aftermarket components, I don't have a cutaway of this, so I don't know exactly what it is. But when you do that, when it's that very violent hammering of an impact, it aggressively smashes into that plastic shim. So people who install tie rods, drag links, track bars, well, not track bars, ball joints, if they're using an impact to tighten it, they're actually prematurely damaging the part. If you use torque specs and a torque wrench, and you do it nice and slow and methodical, there's no violence happening, so it doesn't pre-damage the part, which means you'll get a longer life and better service if you follow the torque specs. So definitely another A+ for STEERSMARTS for installing this inside the box. And it even says, important information, this card must stay with the vehicle at all times. It is the owner's responsibility to have all nuts and bolts checked for tightness after the first 100 miles and then every 3,000 miles. Wheel alignment, steering, blah, blah, blah. That's a CYA type of a thing, but it's really good. Now what I do, all the vehicles that are built here, every single fastener that goes on the vehicle gets a torque wrench. After the torque wrench is applied and the fastener is at the proper torque, we take a paint marker, we run a line across the part all the way up to the nut or the head of the bolt. That way, 50 miles down the line, 100 miles, 5,000 miles later, you can literally look at the paint mark and see if anything is shifted. Because if a bolt is torqued to spec, it typically will not come loose. Now, if you really mean to your stuff off-road, that's a little bit different than driving on the street. But we really want to pay attention, and torque specs are phenomenal. Use a torque wrench. If you don't have one, buy one. Borrow one from a friend. Don't do the work unless you can do it properly. So definitely check out part 2, because I got a little bit involved with some of this because I'm a little bit passionate about certain things, especially torque. Check out part 2 where we will show the track bar and the drag link. But definitely keep following along, follow the rest of the videos. We're gonna bring you along for all of it, and this unboxing and honest reviews of parts is really important to a lot of people. If you're a company that wants me to do an honest review, send it. Put a link, put a comment, get a hold of us. I will do a 100% unbiased, honest review on anybody's product if they send it. Hit the like and subscribe button, follow along, follow these reviews and some of the other stuff that we do at Unofficial Use Only and at the Unofficial Garage. Thank you.